Bitcoin and Cardano are two juggernauts of crypto in their own right. One gave birth to the entire industry and continues to attract global adoption through market dominance, and the other is a third-generation blockchain built with many of the same design architectures and values, but through secure smart contract programmability and proof-of-stake consensus driving decentralization, is taking that next evolutionary step to deliver a global financial and social operating system. If we are to look at this objectively, it can't be denied that both deserve praise for the significant contributions to the growth and development of this space. Without Bitcoin, there would be no crypto, and without Cardano, we would be missing feats of engineering that are now at the cutting edge of this industry. In times of such regulatory uncertainty, the communities surrounding both projects not only need to coexist, but unite to ensure the entire space continues to thrive unimpeded. As a blockchain and decentralization enthusiast, I see immense value from where Bitcoin has taken us from and to the place where Cardano has taken us to. Large parts of the Bitcoin community, however, do not share the same sentiment here, and this brings me to the crux of it. Are a collection of outdated misconceptions or genuine concerns about Cardano holding back a huge community from exploring a blockchain that has all the characteristics to become Bitcoin 2.0? Welcome back to Cardano Insights and the first installment of this mini-series that aims to dissect common Cardano misconceptions expressed by the Bitcoin community and demonstrate why they should in fact be considering Cardano as a safe and valuable blockchain ecosystem to be a part of. Many of the criticisms and narratives we will analyse stem from the early life of the project and seem to have stuck. Now, with years of data and real-time evidence available, they can be scrutinised with far more accuracy. By the end of this series, we will have documented a comprehensive picture of the subject matter for you to come to your own conclusions. So let's dive into part 1 of Cardano and Bitcoin, the myths and misconceptions. This episode will focus on trust, the 3 founding entities, dApp, and the dangers surrounding blockchain upgradability. A purist will tell you that blockchains that require trust directly undermines the core principles of decentralization and security that Bitcoin embodies. This I agree with. Centralized elements of trust can lead to censorship, corruption, and single points of failure, making the system less transparent and more prone to manipulation. Bitcoin's trustless model set out to ensure that no single party had undue influence to foster a more open, secure, and resilient financial system. This ideological commitment to decentralization and trustlessness is central to the ethos of which the Bitcoin community was founded upon. So from a Bitcoin perspective, what are the criticisms surrounding Cardano and trust? Well, primarily this relates to the project's 3 founding entities, the dApp allocation, and control of those all-important Genesis keys. Each of these points are valid concerns surrounding the centralization of a blockchain as they create the need for trust, and with the need to trust comes more risk. However, in the early stages of a project, can this risk be factored in and balanced with the right value proposition? Let's start with the structure of Cardano's 3 founding entities, which is a contentious subject even for those within the Cardano community. The narrative surrounding this approach to blockchain development is that it introduces too much centralization of power, potential for corruption, and control over the direction of the blockchain. However, whilst this model is completely different to, say, the one Satoshi employed for Bitcoin, it has to be judged in the context of the cryptocurrency landscape at the time of its inception, protocol architecture ambitions, and mission objectives. Each of the founding entities have distinct and complementary roles in the ecosystem. IOG responsible for development and technical innovation, ensuring a robust and scalable blockchain. Emergo to drive commercial adoption and integration, fostering partnerships and business use cases. And the Cardano Foundation to focus on community building, regulatory outreach, and ensuring the overall governance and sustainability of the project. Although Cardano's decision to introduce a tripartite structure to the establishment of a blockchain introduces centralization of power and a huge layer of trust required from the offset, we now have real-time data to support whether or not this model was in fact a successful one. Despite its trade-offs, this structure has enabled Cardano to develop a superior technological foundation, achieve market penetration with largely organic growth, and cultivate one of the largest, most engaged communities across the entire space. In blockchain development, delivering organic growth, technological innovation, and resilience without VC backing in an ultra-competitive marketplace is extremely difficult to achieve. It can be argued that the potential risk associated with the tripartite structure was a necessary evil in order to realize the grand vision of Cardano. The path to decentralization was clearly defined in the project's roadmap, and this, coupled with the groundbreaking system being engineered for many, was a fair trade-off for the initial so-called centralization in the foundational structure. You have to have an open mind to the fact that not all elements of centralization in blockchain development are necessarily characteristics that will remain throughout the lifespan of the project. In fact, Cardano's decision to have 3 independent founding entities introduced the very foundation for decentralization to be built upon. Rather than one founding team, Cardano had 3 separate entities driving the success of the project. These entities have been consistently held accountable by each other and the Cardano community that surrounds them. Without structure and well-organized teams tackling what is one of the most ambitious roadmaps in the entire space, it does beg the question, how else would this have been made possible if it wasn't for this approach? As the series progresses, we will discuss the 3 founding entities further and also demonstrate exactly how these centralized controls will eventually be removed altogether. Now let's address the ADA pre-mine and specifically the ADA allocated to the 3 founding entities before being made publicly available. Pre-mining is criticised as it can again result in the centralisation of wealth and power over the network. Pre-mine has also been criticised with the narrative that a pre-mine can facilitate lobbying government, which we'll also come to. But first, in an ideal world, and again from a Bitcoin purist perspective, there would be no pre-mine. But is the only fair distribution model the proof of work consensus where reward goes only to those who participate in the mining? I'd say in 2024, Cardano is proof that this is not the case, and as an industry, we have to stop creating false narratives without substance or context. The truth is, a variety of different design architectures and token distribution models have their merits. It's not fair to simply disregard a cryptocurrency purely based on a pre-mine. Cardano and Bitcoin were launched in 2 completely different eras of blockchain. At the time of Bitcoin's inception, only a very small group of people knew about the network. If the experiment failed at the beginning, very few would have suffered economic loss, and despite it being easy to attempt a 51% attack on the network, nobody did. In Cardano's case, the landscape for launching a proof-of-stake blockchain in 2017 was completely different. The high probability of a network attack and difficulty in penetrating a hyper-competitive marketplace required a well-thought-out distribution of the token supply and effective bootstrapping mechanism for those responsible for the development. So let's take a look at the tokenomics and pre-mine. Of the 45 billion ADA max supply, approximately 2.4 billion went to IOG, 2 billion to Emergo, and 650 million to the Cardano Foundation. Approximately 57% of the supply, around 26 billion ADA, was sold to the public and was the first in the cryptocurrency industry to set and know your customer guidelines. An audit was also performed on the distribution process. The amount of ADA available at launch was around 31 billion ADA of the 45 billion supply. The remaining 13 billion ADA was reserved for the Cardano protocol to release them as part of the monetary policy through staking rewards and Treasury. So in terms of the ADA pre-mine, the founding entities received approximately 20% of the supply available at launch, which equates to around 12% of the total supply. When compared with the negative narrative surrounding a cryptocurrency pre-mine, Cardano's approach is found to be extremely transparent and calculated in terms of the project realistically being able to execute against its roadmap. The Cardano pre-mine, founding entities allocation, and public token distribution served its purpose. It avoided over-centralization of power to the 3 founding entities, while still sufficiently bootstrapping them for the mammoth task ahead. Also, it crucially enabled them to contribute to the security of the network as it transitioned from a federated network to proof-of-stake consensus. In comparison to Bitcoin's model, sure, with a pre-mine and initial token allocation comes increased risk of centralization that requires an element of trust in the founders. But as a Cardano user, the risk has been factored in and weighted against the body of work that's been laid out in the project's roadmap. Rather than dismissing a blockchain based on the pre-mine and founders' token allocation, you must drill down on the actual numbers and make an assessment to whether the vision, blockchain architecture, and cost of engineering warranted this. Again, this element of entrusting founding entities in the early stages of a project is part of the trade-off in order to be part of something far more rewarding if all is achieved. When you consider the cost associated with research, engineering, and ongoing development of the Cardano blockchain project, without a pre-mine allocation and founding entities with significant domain expertise with sufficient runway to execute, how else would you envision all of this being made possible? Launching a proof-of-stake blockchain comes with far more security risks than the proof-of-work model, and with Cardano's approach in using functional programming, formal methods, and peer-reviewed research compounds the cost and complexity further. When you factor in other innovations like EUTXO, the Shelley upgrade, and Ouroboros Genesis, Cardano was never going to attract meaningful VC participation to fund such an ambitious development over the time period necessary to actually undertake this feat of engineering. The most compelling argument to why a Cardano premine was necessary can be evidenced in the architecture and capabilities of the Cardano blockchain today. It's becoming more decentralized, secure, and scalable over time, with 100% uptime, no hacks, and over 90 million transactions processed to this day. Ignoring what has been achieved here and dismissing it altogether because of a premine is extremely short-sighted. When weighing up the potential risk associated with premine, with Cardano, you are factoring the reward potential when all the peer-reviewed research translates into the most decentralized and technologically advanced blockchain, capable of facilitating the world's financial operating system. This is the number one value proposition. The final point I want to make on premine is the narrative that this introduces the risk of lobbying to government. The idea that a premine could place significant control in the hands of, say, blockchain founders to successfully sway government officials to make policy that suits their own agenda, and in turn compromise the decentralized nature of blockchain. The answer to this is simple. A premine is not the driving force behind lobbying. In fact, it doesn't matter where the resources or power comes from. If you have resources and an agenda, then lobbying is on the table. This is true in all industries. In actual fact, when it comes to cryptocurrency and lobbying, we've already seen high-profile examples of prominent members of the Bitcoin community with huge resources doing the exact thing they claim a premine could facilitate, attempting to convince government that Bitcoin is a commodity and everything else is a security. So what about Cardano and its premine? Well, founder Charles Hoskinson has proven on a consistent basis to be a great advocate for the entire cryptocurrency industry. Here we can example this with him speaking in front of Congress vouching for crypto as a whole and didn't mention Cardano on one occasion. Again, trust comes into play. While Fiesta premine could facilitate lobbying, it has to be evidence in practice for it to be a valid talking point. Check out the video linked in the description if you're interested to see how he represented the industry. I think this is extremely telling from a moral and blockchain values perspective. Now let's talk those Genesis keys and specifically control that the founding entities of Cardano have over the protocol's treasury. The fear is that the three organizations are able to withdraw from the treasury and that this element of centralization presents greater risk to Cardano and its community. It's true, for now this is out of the community's control and this element of centralization is evident. Until Cardano reaches governance, something that we'll touch on later in the series, the keys to the treasury remain firmly in the founding entity's control. But does this mean because they can that they have taken funds from the treasury against the will of the community? Well, in the name of transparency, the Cardano Foundation undertook a very important body of work that is completely open source. The findings, well, apart from accessing the treasury to bootstrap Project Catalyst, which is Cardano's decentralized innovation fund where the community can apply to fund their own project's development, no ADA has ever been withdrawn for any other purpose. I've linked this in the description. This project tracks all of the ADA that has ever been withdrawn from the treasury and demonstrates that whilst again this introduces an element of trust that we all want removed, founding entities have proven to be completely transparent in this respect. Again, this highlights some of the trade-offs in play when you're working towards realizing a truly decentralized system. So with the Genesis keys currently in the control of the three founding entities, what safety fallback is available to the Cardano community if they were, for example, to find that the founding entities had acted in a dishonest way or were found to be making decisions that went against the desires or values of the community? What control does the Cardano community actually have? Well, contrary to what you may have heard outside of Cardano, but there is in theory no need for the three founding organizations at all. If the community decided that they wanted to take full control of the blockchain today, it could. Now, whilst in reality this may not be in the best interest of the success of the project, here is the Cardano node's permissible license. This means anyone can fork the network and even do so without a premine for that matter, and take the protocol in the direction they see fit. This feeds directly into the libertarian values of Bitcoin and actually empowers the community further in as much as it ensures that the founding entities can be held accountable for their actions. The last thing IOG, Emergo and Cardano Foundation would want is for a huge part of the community to go fork the blockchain before the roadmap is complete. This would not only fracture the community but compromise the security and decentralization of Cardano, something it has worked tirelessly at achieving for years. The fact that this hasn't occurred speaks volumes to both how the Cardano community and founding entities are dedicated to realizing the original project's mission and are continuing to journey towards this together with community at the heart of it all. But to think somehow Cardano and its community is trapped under the rule of 3 founding entities is incorrect, and I think this is an important point to make when analysing trust and accountability. Now, with the Genesis keys still in mind, let's talk hard forks. Nick Szabo once said that Cardano's philosophy, and especially its auto-update feature, is centralized and destroys trust minimization. Trust minimization is the most important feature that gives a blockchain value. Cardano people do not understand it and fundamentally violate it. There is a misconception that the Genesis keys provide the 3 founding entities with absolute power to initiate whatever changes to the protocol they see fit, irrespective of whether this is to the detriment of the community and protocol itself. But the truth of the matter is, whilst the Genesis keys can trigger a hard fork and grant access to a well-defined set of updatable parameters, Cardano code changes requires SPOs to opt in order to upgrade. If the client's Cardano code is to be fundamentally changed, a 70% majority of SPOs must agree. They can review the code and reject the change. Only if they agree will they install a newer version of the client to their nodes. The majority decides in this case. When an upgrade is proposed, the stake pool operators do not have to upgrade, and if this were to occur, then the 3 founding organizations would face a hugely negative impact on the security and decentralization of the protocol. Cardano has conducted numerous hard forks, and the stake pool participation has to this point been flawless. This demonstrates how, as a community, there is an extremely strong support for the protocol development. So whilst Genesis keys do grant the founding entities control, this is counterbalanced as a result of the widely distributed network of over 3,000 stake pool operators. However, in Cardano, hard forks are to be celebrated as it's part of the blockchain evolution, enhancing its capabilities each time. SPOs are a huge part of the process, and with each hard fork continue to play a significant role. Without a hard fork, how can a protocol develop in a safe, iterative fashion, remain at the cutting edge of this technology, and move with the fast-paced nature of this industry? So this leads us to the final segment for today. For many, especially those from the Bitcoin community, the idea of upgrading a blockchain is highly problematic. Technical issues can arise introducing vulnerabilities or bugs in the new code that can compromise security, result in network splits in the event not all participants upgrade, leading to compatibility issues, and potentially network disruptions can result in the loss of user trust if not executed smoothly. It's well documented across the entire space that hard forks are inherently dangerous for blockchains and can even result in catastrophic failure. However, this is where Cardano comes into its own, showcasing one of its many innovations. If you haven't heard about this before, I really suggest doing some research on it, as it's another factor that really separates Cardano from the rest of the industry when it comes to the security, flexibility, and scope of blockchain upgradability. Cardano's hard fork combinator is a distinctive mechanism designed to facilitate seamless upgrades of the Cardano blockchain without disrupting network operations or requiring any downtime. This enables the Cardano network to transition from one protocol version to another smoothly. This means that when a new version of the protocol is deployed, it can coexist with the old version during the transition, ensuring that the network remains fully operational and uninterrupted. The combinator maintains backward compatibility, allowing nodes running the old version of the software to continue operating until they're ready to upgrade. This ensures that the network remains cohesive and avoids splitting into different chains. With the hard fork combinator, multiple protocol versions can be implemented with a single codebase. This unified approach simplifies the development and maintenance of the software, reducing complexity and the potential for bugs. The combinator also supports the incremental deployment of new features and improvements. Instead of launching a completely new protocol all at once, updates can be introduced gradually, tested thoroughly, and rolled out in stages. By enabling smooth transitions and maintaining a unified codebase, the combinator reduces the risks associated with hard forks such as chain splits and double spending. This contributes to the overall security and stability of the blockchain. The combinator is designed in a modular way, allowing developers to add new features or make changes without affecting the core protocol's functionality. This modularity makes it easier to implement future upgrades and innovations. Whilst the risks of upgrading a blockchain can never be reduced to zero, the innovation of Cardano's hard fork combinator massively reduces this risk when compared to conventional methods of upgrading. One of the most significant examples and applications of the hard fork combinator was transitioning from the Byron era, the initial federated network of Cardano, to the Shelley era, the decentralized proof-of-stake network that we know today. This transition demonstrated the combinator's capability to handle complex upgrades involving fundamental changes to the blockchain's consensus mechanism. The hard fork combinator is a key innovation in Cardano's development, enabling a robust and flexible upgrade path that ensures continuity, security, and progressive enhancement of the blockchain network. So that's it for part 1 in this series, Cardano and Bitcoin, the myths and misconceptions. In part 2, we will delve deeper down this rabbit hole, uncover more truths, analyze more criticisms, and begin to really drill down on what are Cardano's unique advantages over Bitcoin. If you enjoyed this take and learned something new today, please consider subscribing and hit that notification bell so you don't miss future installments. Thanks everyone for watching, and until next time, have a great week ahead, and as always, keep it Cardano.